What's going on, ladies and gents? Basic Sandra here, and in this video we're going to be reacting to another video I was shown by Sacred G. So if you guys want to go check out his channel, he also reviewed this with the unknown G12. So if you want to go check out his channel too, I'll put the link in the description. But yeah, so this is a video I was shown. It's why the Elder Scrolls 6 will fail, and the game's not even out yet. The only thing we've seen is that they're making it. That's all we know. So without further ado, let's get into it. It's only 5 minutes and 45 seconds.
The Elder Scrolls 6 is doomed to fail. This is a fact I've felt to be true for quite some
Problem I have right there is he says it's a fact
time, but it's only recently
that he thought that, that he's starting to think is true. And he's like, it's a fact, so it's gonna happen. It's like, no, it's not. You don't know.
that I've begun to deliberate exactly why I think the sequel to Skyrim will fall short.
That's what he should have said instead, right there. He just said it right there. That's why I think it'll fail. But instead, at the beginning, he said it was a fact. But, hey, let's see why he thinks it's gonna fail.
To be clear, I don't mean fail in terms of a lack of sales or general critical acclaim. Rather, I believe The Elder Scrolls 6 is likely to fail the series' long-term fans. And if you're watching this video, then it's likely that you are one of those fans. To get to the
Yeah, kinda. I've never played 3, Elder Scrolls 3, like this section of the video is titled for some reason.
heart of the problem regarding the next game, it's poignant to recount the popular history of the Elder Scrolls series. Whilst the games preceding Morrowind did receive significant critical acclaim, it was only with the release of the third Elder Scrolls game that the Elder Scrolls series became a big player in the world of RPGs, not least because Bethesda had tripled their workforce specifically for Morrowind. The third game in the series allowed players to immerse themselves in deep lore that at times was quite challenging to understand. The theology behind
You can in this game. You can in Oblivion and 5. You can immerse yourself in the books that you can fucking read in Skyrim. And I'm pretty sure you can read books in Oblivion. I don't quite remember, but yeah, you can read some lore. There's some lore in Skyrim. Just about every Elder Scrolls is fucking filled with lore.
the tribunal of Vivec, Sothasil and Olmalexia will take wider in-game reading to fully comprehend, perhaps partly because the trio
Why would you want longer reading to comprehend? Just make it, I read it once, I'm like, cool, that's badass. They did that. Why do you want to have it so it's like I gotta read so much shit, and then I gotta solve this difficult ass puzzle? It's like, why? Why would you want all that the whole time? I understand like a challenge here and then, but the whole game just challenging all the way through. I'm not a big fan of that.
appear to be, very loosely, based off the real-world Trimurti, the three dominant gods of Hinduism. The deep lore of Morrowind, combined with a compelling narrative and the truly amazing graphics that we can still appreciate to this day,
Amazing graphics for the time.
set a solid framework for future Elder Scrolls games to be modelled off. It seemed as if Morrowind had hit the right spot in terms of how to explore the diverse and deep world of the Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, just like Elder Scrolls 5 and Oblivion did. They just explore a different area. They're not exploring Morrowind, they're exploring Skyrim and Oblivion now. Like, fuck.
But Oblivion broke away from the successful framework of its predecessor upon its release in 2008, which caused some concern among fans of Morrowind at the time. Sure, the game pleased players who were new to the
How did it break away? Let's rewind that.
But Oblivion broke away from the successful framework of its predecessor upon its release in 2008, which caused some concern among fans of Morrowind at the time. Sure, the game pleased players who were new to the series, such as me, as well as many long-time players, and there was nothing inherently wrong with the game.
Then why are you bitching about it? There's nothing wrong with the game. It pleased you. What's the point of bringing it up? It broke away from Morrowind's. How did it break away? What? Okay.
In fact, Oblivion received better ratings than Morrowind from a few critics at the time. It was simply that it had taken the Elder Scrolls series down a different line to Morrowind. The story of the game was more plodding and predictable. There was no real
Probably because you played Morrowind and they went with a similar story to Morrowind. You ever think about that? You've played Morrowind, you saw how that one played out. They made a similar story, different characters, same kind of plot, and you kind of know how it's gonna end. Doesn't that kind of sound like something they would do? You know? Yeah.
need to understand
And then you're sitting here telling me the story's good, but it's like, why are you bitching about the game if you're just sitting here saying it's bad with no explanation, but you're saying it's good with a bunch of explanations why it's good. But the video is it's gonna fail, so why? You're not. Why?
the lore and theory behind the Mythic Dawn or Mehrunes Dagon. You could quite easily complete the game by simply following the general good versus evil theme. Skyrim took a similar route to Oblivion in its linearity as well,
Of course. Yes, they're Elder Scrolls games. They're gonna obviously each one's gonna take a similar route to each one. They're the same like genre. They're in the same world. It's Elder Scrolls 3, 4, and then now 5. And this guy's sitting here like they're taking similar routes. It's like, yeah, that's because they're Elder Scrolls games. Like what?
splitting more away from the mold Morrowind had created. In contrast to Oblivion's and Skyrim's relative simplicity, Morrowind forced the player to discover more about the Nerevarine prophecy in various quests, such as the ones where the player is implored to learn about the dissident priests. Again, reading through the texts of the priests was challenging, and a grasp of the theory behind the dissident priests was needed to truly comprehend the game's story. Morrowind also explored some more challenging themes, for example the morality behind divinity. The main questline raised the question of whether the gods are morally good, a real-world question that's challenged real-world theologians for many years. Oblivion and Skyrim too explored some dark and interesting themes, but not in the same complicated way as Morrowind.
Why would you want the game to be more complicated? Like I can understand why Bethesda would want to make their games a little more simpler for those who don't have as much time as the people who want to delve deep into the lore. Like you literally still can delve deep into the lore. There's a bunch of shit you can read in Elder Scrolls 5, but it's just not the main story, you know? So if you want to learn about the Dragonborn more, then fucking there's books about the Dragonborn probably in the on the quest about the Dragonborn when you delve into all those caves and shit. I'm sure I picked up some. There's literally at the beginning the book of Skyrim. So, like, geez, man. There's lore in the game, you just gotta find it. It's not thrown out for you like in 3, and they're not making it all the story of the lore is the story. They're not doing that. They're making your character the story. Like, that's an RPG, man.
All the villains in Oblivion were just that, pure villains. You could tell from the get-go that Mehrunes Dagon was just a full-on bad guy. Dagothir in Morrowind, on the other hand, was more complicated. The player never distinctly learns, by the end, who's more evil between the Tribunal and the leader of the Sixth House. In essence,
Hold on. What do you say?
guy. Dagothir in Morrowind, on the other hand, go that Mehrunes Dagon was just a full-on bad guy. Dagothir in Morrowind, on the other hand, was more complicated. The player never distinctly learns, by the end, who's more evil between the Tribunal
The I
and
don't
the
know what
leader
he's
of the
talking
Sixth
about right here.
House.
I'm
In
not gonna
essence,
lie.
both Oblivion and to a slightly lesser extent Skyrim seemed much more like action-adventure games that were simply set in the Elder Scrolls universe, as opposed to a game like Morrowind, which acted as a medium from which to explore and learn about the Elder
You can explore in these games. What is he talking about? It's an action adventure game set in this world. What, was there no action or adventure in 3? You're telling me you adventuring and exploring is not an action adventure? It's just a little more complicated. Like the games are still action adventure, bro. Like he's just saying it just became an action adventure. No, it's always been an action adventure game. It's an RPG action adventure fantasy. Like, fuck, man. There's so much shit.
Scrolls world. It's completely understandable as to why Bethesda decided to take this route and deviate from the complexity of Morrowind though. Fundamentally, by making the game more accessible to a wider and perhaps younger audience, the game's sales would increase.
Younger audience, this game's still fucking dark, man. I doubt it may be a little more simple for people with less time to comprehend and understand, but like this makes no sense. A younger audience? No, this game's still mature. There's still heads getting cut off, vampires and werewolves eating each other. Like, there's some dark shit in Skyrim. Just because it's easier to understand does not mean it's for a younger audience.
And the series would become more popular as a result. I have to make clear as well that I don't dislike Oblivion or Skyrim compared to Morrowind. In fact, for many years I actively preferred Oblivion to any other Elder Scrolls game. It's just
Then what's the point of making the video?
more that as I've matured and experienced Morrowind, I've begun to see more clearly the worrying path that the Elder Scrolls games are taking. It seems that with each game,
What's so... Okay, it sounded like he's about to explain it.
the focus shifts more from exploring the complex lore of the series to adventure and experience, which, don't get me wrong, I do enjoy, but it's not what I necessarily want to experience as much from an Elder Scrolls game. And I certainly
That makes absolutely no sense because half the experience is the lore, sir. You're learning the lore of what's happening. Like, you literally, in Dawnguard, you freed a vampire from fucking a coffin that she'd been locked in, and then she tells you her lore, and there's a bunch of lore behind that, and then the vampire lore, and then there's fucking Draugr lore, there's Dragonborn lore, there's all sorts of lore to be found in this game. He is sitting here complaining that there's no lore anymore in the game. It's like, no, the main story is not focused on the lore no more, it's focused on your character and what he's doing. That, in my opinion, is a good move for them because the game is based on your character. If you want to go out of your way and learn more about your character and the lore to your character, the lore to what his powers are, the lore to everything in this world, I'm sure it's out there. I know it's out there. There's so many fucking books you can read in this game. But let's hear his conclusion and let's wrap this up.
certainly don't want to see the story and lore substituted for the sake of gameplay. It's totally valid at this point to point out that maybe I expect too much from the series, but truly,
Maybe you do, sir.
I believe that for a world as vivid, compelling, and interesting as that of The Elder Scrolls, an action-adventure game just doesn't do it justice. For The Elder Scrolls 6 to be truly
Then don't play it like an action adventure game. Go hunt for the fucking lore, bud.
successful, it has to be both unique, but to return an aspect to the roots of Morrowind. I'd love to see new ideas.
Why would it have to return to the roots of Morrowind, sir? What if I didn't like Morrowind? This is all your opinion. You're playing out your opinion like it's fact. It needs to go back to Morrowind. What if I enjoyed Skyrim more than Morrowind, sir? Like you said before, you enjoyed Oblivion more than Morrowind. But that's because it was an older game and they didn't have voice acting. That's why you had to read so much. In this, it's just they talk for you. That's the only difference. Pretty much. It was a little more complicated in Morrowind too, I'm sure. But there's they don't need to go back to their Morrowind roots. Both their games are great. So much content to do in them. You can make whoever you want, whatever you want. You can be good, bad, in the middle. Like there's just too much to do in this game. But I think we'll finish off
Ideas and
this.
concepts implemented in The Elder Scrolls 6. In fact, I'd hate to see a game that just copied the format of the third game. Yet, I truly believe that the next game needs to be as in-depth.
So he contradicts himself quite a bit there, as I'm realizing too. So I'm just gonna end it here after I get my final thoughts out right here. But he just contradicted himself, saying how he enjoyed Oblivion more than Morrowind, but they're gonna fail because they're not following Morrowind, even though he said himself he enjoyed Oblivion more than Morrowind. And then he's sitting here saying that if they don't go back to the roots of Morrowind, they're gonna fail. But then they can't go back to the roots of Morrowind because it's just gonna be a copy paste. So I don't know what the fuck this whole video is trying to say. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this little video I made. if you guys want to see more, just go ahead and subscribe, like, and yeah, just leave me some dumbass videos you want to hear me react to, and I'll react to them. But yeah, expect Sims 4 gameplay coming soon. I just made a world specifically for YouTubing, and it's gonna be a little darker of a world. I've got a few mods that like the drug mod. I've got the gang mod, and yeah. So hope you guys enjoy this, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.